So, Katalina. This is a character that is kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, Shoto style character that just kind of does everything, right? That is my basic description for her. So if you are new to this game and just picking it up, right, and you don't know who to play, and you come across this a hot lady knight, right, that's what she is. Okay, that's what you're looking at. If that's what you want, that's what you're going to get. This is going to be a guide about her and about what she does, about who she is, about kind of what you can do with her, how to actually play her effectively. And it's going to be for the beginner, it's going to be for the intermediate player, it's going to be for the player who's really good, who's just kind of picking them up from another character. Just anybody trying to understand what they even do with Katalina, because there's not that many resources out there kind of putting everything into one. So I thought it'd be good to just go over some techniques that are really important to the character and how to play them effectively at a higher level. We're talking about Katalina. I think something that's really valuable to understand is what you're even doing with the character, right? Like, what's even the point to what you're doing in the first place? How Katalina works is that she has a weaker pressure in the mid-game, but a good neutral presence, which allows her to push the opponent really far back and get them to the corner, right? Once they're in the corner, oh, it's bad. Oh, it's bad, because it's so hard for them to get out of the corner. That's what you're doing. What you have to keep in mind is that what you're doing is inching the opponent back towards the corner. The opponent wants to inch you towards the corner. You're fighting against that, right? That's how you play neutral with this character, which is the most important part of this game. So, I would go over all the normals. I would go over all the specials kind of in a vacuum, but I really don't think that that's going to be the most good way of doing this. I mean, her normals are wonderful by themselves, but what's most important is understanding how to use them. If you're curious about having a place where you can see all of her normals and all of her specials, all of her skills, everything that makes up the character's toolkit, there is always Dustloop. Dustloop Wiki is a great place to learn more about the character and learn more about the moves that they have. But unfortunately, the Dustloop for this character is not very updated, and there are not a lot of resources out there for version 2.10 that we're in. So that's why here I'm going to have a lot more updated information on the character. But if you want to know about system mechanics, if you want to know about every single normal and every single special that this character has, don't worry, I'm going to be going through them in this video. But if you just want a place that has everything laid out for you, Dustloop Wiki is a great place for that. So what Dustloop Wiki doesn't have, but what I have here, is her neutral game, what you want to be focusing on, how you want to effectively be playing her, how you even get them in the corner in the first place, right? So what's most valuable about this character, and the thing that really sets her apart from the rest of the cast, is her normals. She has a great, well-rounded set of normals attached to her that she can do a lot with. Farlight, 17 frame total, wonderful move. It's really huge. You can just kind of throw it out, right? Keep the opponents at bay. It's, as you can see, it is +1 on block and on hit. Very easy confirmed into 2 and 4L, which allows her to push her opponent back even further. Great normal, great normal, great normal. To complement this normal, because as you can see, the Farlight, her feet are quite vulnerable. But if you add 2M, it does not look that way. This normal is kind of everything, right? This normal does everything you want. She crouches, she hits the big move, and it is 7 frame startup, which is insane. This move is massive in only 7 frames. That's 1 frame slower than Farlight, right? 1 frame slower than Farlight, 2 frames slower than your fastest move in close L, and you cover this entire space, and it's a medium, so it'll beat lights, right? This move is great. It is a wonderful move. It is phenomenal against opposing 6/6Ls, right? I'll get into that move in a second, but this infamous move is really good in neutral. And 2M is a great move against it, spaced out. And it is just a great normal. Doesn't have a lot of whiff recovery, right? It only has 26 frame total. It's pretty good for its size. The other move of the mediums that she has is really good is her far M. This is her longest reaching normal. At 8 frames, she covers like 1/3 of the screen. This move is absolutely egregiously insane. I say egregious. I don't mean it. I don't want this move nerfed. I think it's awesome. I just think that this move is, I don't know, it's insane, and I can't think of another word to describe it besides that, because it makes me feel something when I press it. I love this move. Yeah, it's a good normal. It's a little more, has a little more whiff recovery, right? 28 frames. It has 1 frame slower startup, but it hits further than 2M. Where 2M won't hit, far M will. So yeah, it is a really, really good normal. Along with that is far H. This is a H normal, so it's going to beat out your lights and your mediums. And it's massive. It's huge. It's really good against jumping opponents too, as you'll see. It really good against jumping opponents. And in general, it's only 9 frame startup. 9 frame startup for this move. That is only 1 frame slower than far medium for a move that's just slightly smaller than far M, but is a heavy. And is really high damage, really easy to confirm out of. It's just a really, really great normal, right? 2H is good against anti-airs. That's just a very simple anti-air tool. And her close normals are really nothing special. They're really not neutral tools. They're more pressure tools, so don't even worry about those. Her 2L is not good. It's really not a neutral tool. It's more of a pressure tool, so that I will go more into using 2L later, but for now it's just not a very good move in neutral. It's very rarely used. And yeah, her air normals in neutral. She has her JL, which is great because it is active the whole way down, but really it doesn't matter. The only ones that really matter, JM, this thing's massive. Wow, that this normal is insane. And JU, because this move hits both sides, and it is huge, which is, oh my gosh, like this move is great, right? Look at that, it hits both sides. Wonderful normal to just jump in with, right? It's your main jump in tool besides JM, which just hits way further than the other ones. This move is, every day goes by and JM gets better for me. This move is great. JH is kind of just all right. It hits a little deeper than the other moves will, but JU just kind of does what it does, but better. So yeah. Now, combining her normals together, right? What happens is you start to realize that the normals complement each other really well. So far H, really good normal, except it's a little small. So you have far H, right? Oh my gosh. Then you have far M, which will hit. And then you have 2M, and it's a little short. Far M will hit. Seen a pattern? Far light, it's a little short. You have 2M, far M, 5H. The opposite is also somewhat true. What'll happen is your opponent will see you whiff a button. They'll want to come at you, so you can do far L to cover the space after, right? Because it's such an easy move to use. You do 2M. There's not a lot of total frames on it. You do another one. The moves combine together to control space so well because they're so difficult to punish. If Vegeta here is outside of 2M range, right? They see me with a 2M, they want a 6XL. They react to my 2M, they try to 6XL, I hit far L, I hit their 6XL because they're just not fast enough. They're not going to be fast enough to correctly do that every single time because there's just so much to react to that they're going to be slow, right? So that's why lights are really good for complementing the mediums and the heavies because they're really good at covering the space to make yourself a little safer and to just ward off counterattacks, right? So, yeah. Now, what you get to do is you get to combine this idea of warding off counterattacks and controlling the space in front of you with her burst options, which are going to be 6XL, because 6XL, it covers a lot of space, is plus on block, it starts your turn, and it's just a really good normal in general with really low total frame duration. It's very good on whiff. But it's a burst option, right? You're covering the space, you're controlling the space with your mediums, 6XL, you're in. Another option, 6XM. Really quick low. It is minus on block, but at a distance, it can be safe. And it's just a really quick low that people aren't expecting because your 2L freaking sucks. So why would you come in and do 2L when you could just do this? It's wonderful. So that's another burst option you have. 66H doesn't have the same utility as the other one. It's just a combo tool, so don't even worry about that. The other low you do have access to is sweep. This is going to be more pressure, defensive, reversal kind of tool. You don't really want to use this in neutral. There's no reason to. Why do that when you can just do this? So yeah, this is a very mediocre move for neutral that really isn't that important. I really wouldn't worry about using 2U that much. But really all of her normals kind of combine together to make her a powerhouse that just stops people approaching. It really makes people scared to even come into range against this character, right? So that's how her normals connect. Now her specials add a lot to her neutral game, right? You have her 2 and 4L. It comes with the issue of being minus on block at a unsafe distance. So as you can see like that, it's -7. But it's a burst option with the trade-off of being negative up close. So simply don't do it up close. That's the whole point of the move. You're not going to be doing it up here, right? You're going to be doing it spaced out here because you're trying to cover this space. Because, think about it. You control this area. Your opponent is waiting for you to do something. They might wiggle. They might have a projectile of their own that they're going to throw out. 2 and 4L. It wins. It just beats it. This move has very high priority. It eats a lot of moves. It's very good. It has the issue with lows. It's not that good against lows. It has you have an extended lower hurt box. But honestly, this move is so big that it doesn't even matter. Like, this move is absolutely massive. It's great. So it's something that you combine with your normals because at a space where your normals can't reach, 2 and 4L will. And that is very powerful. That is incredibly threatening, right? So when these normals won't hit, 2 and 4L. Now, another option is 2 and 4M. This is a very niche option. As you can see, distances like this, 2 and 4L, I'm -5. That's cool. 2 and 4M at this kind of distance. Yeah, you're a little less safe. You're like kind of a whole punish. There's kind of a whole difference between you actually getting punished, which is a really big deal. There's just, I don't know. There's just not that much reason to use 2 and 4M. Its backstep property is good, but it really loses to people running forward just a little bit extra and doing like a little extra forward 6-6L to catch you on the way back because there's no invulnerability to it at all. You simply go back a little bit. It's really not worth it. It's a big risk for a reward that is just not worth it. You push them back a little bit further on hit than you do L. It's not as good when you could have just done the better move, right? The safer, better option. H, I mean, yeah, it's just the L version but bigger. But as you can see, it has cooldowns because it is an H move, so it does have a cooldown. It can be as safe as L, and you can use it the same as you can 2 and 4L. The problem is that the cooldown is just massive. There's a really big issue with Katalina. If you don't have it, you're way less threatening. So in general, why use it when you could just use 2 and 4L and not have to deal with the cooldown? So H isn't that big of a deal for neutral. Now the U skill is interesting. You absorb a hit of armor, right? You put up LIGHTWALL. I'll talk about LIGHTWALL in a second. But you put up a thing of armor, and you do an attack, and that's it. It is -6 on block, so you can get punished from it from people who are woke enough. They can also dodge it and then punish you even harder. So yeah, it's very easy to react to too. So it's very easy for them to dodge and punish you. So it's not something that you throw out. This is not a move that you throw out at all. But it can absorb 1 hit of damage because it has armor and then do a counter attack. So it is a good call out, but it's really just not worth the meter and the risk. So again, 2 and 4L. So of the 236 series, it's a very normal fireball. You're playing a very normal fireball game with them, which is you have full screen presence with this, right? So you're kind of making your opponent want to approach you, want to dodge, want to get in with you, and every single choice that they make to deal with your fireball is a risk that they take. They jump. If they jump after that, anti-air. If they think you're going to do a fireball and you don't do a fireball, anti-air. If they think you're going to do a fireball, you don't fireball and they dodge, 6XL. If you think they're going to do a fireball and they roll, they're rolling right into H range. So like, yeah, there's a lot of risk involved with calling out a fireball. There is a lot of reward that they have, because if they do call out your fireball, like if I do fireball and they jump, they do get a full punish. But you can use this to your favor to start some mind games and just start kind of making them rethink the options that they're choosing with good fireball play. It's definitely something that you can't throw out. The medium is really fast. It covers a lot of ground really quickly and is a really safe option. The light is slower, but better for pressure. I'll get to that later. The H, you don't really want to use this in neutral that much. There's some scenarios and specific situations where it might be good to go through other people's projectiles or stop some opponents in their tracks. But in general, this is a really long cooldown. As you can see, it is a pretty long cooldown. You do not have your fireball, meaning you have no full screen presence for quite a big time outside of U fireball, which I'll talk about in a second. But H fireball is a usable tool. You just don't want to use it all the time. Now, U fireball is definitely something that you do want to keep in mind of, because it is a full screen poke. Right, this is a move that hits full screen. You basically, the full meter, get to do this twice. On hits, it's amazing. You crumple, and you can confirm if you're close, and if not, you skip the entirety of neutral and go straight to beat in their face. So yeah, this is a really, really, really good tool. And the problem is that it's an ultimate skill, meaning there is a blue flash. If there's a flash, they can react and, you know, do a dodge. If they dodge, you get absolutely nothing. You're safe, very safe, but they don't actually get anything. Like, you get nothing from doing this except for wasted meter. So that's why it is best to be used as some sort of punish tool, right? See them do a projectile, you use your better projectile. So you want to use it more as a punish tool, right? So that's the use of 214U in neutral. It's mainly just to make your opponent scared, because you have 50 meter, anything they do, react, boom, 214U, right? So it's just another layer of pressure added on to the character that you have available to you. DPs are just anti-airs. That's it. That's all you're using it for. You're going to want to use HDP because it's invul and also air unblockable, so people jump and you can't 2H or can't 2H in time. You always have HDP as an option. UDP you don't really want to use. It's just a reversal. You don't want to use that for air anti-air, because H does what it does, but more just without using meter. So it's just the better option, right? So those are her specials in neutral. Now we can talk about LIGHTWALL. Oh boy, what a move. So LIGHTWALL is her 5U. That is this. The LIGHTWALL. It's kind of in the name. What happens is she puts up her shield, exactly the same as 214U, and it absorbs, just like 214U, one hit, because it has armor. It has armor for one attack, one hit. I say hit specifically because I do not mean one normal. I do not mean one special. I mean one hit. So, Jita, right? H Fireball, for instance. I absorb one hit, I get hit by 2. Typically, this has 3 hits, but because I use LIGHTWALL, oops, what in the world? Because I use LIGHTWALL, I took one hit because of the LIGHTWALL, and then I got hit by the other 2, right? So that's how it works. One hit. You do not nullify the damage. You do take a little bit of damage, but it is greatly reduced too. So the point of LIGHTWALL is, this is the basic premise of it. You have your opponent hit your LIGHTWALL with a normal, right? You call out their normal, like you think they're going to do a 5H, and you're sitting right here. They think they're going to do a 5H. You LIGHTWALL it, right? They get hit by LIGHTWALL, and you do a counterattack. That's the general idea, right? That's the very easy way of understanding LIGHTWALL. It is a counter style attack. It's a defensive option, but there's a lot of stuff going on underneath. You'll notice you can charge LIGHTWALL, right? I've been charging LIGHTWALL, and during the middle of the charge there was like a flash on the screen. That little shake, sorry, not flash, a little shake. That little shake indicates that I have leveled up my LIGHTWALL. There are 3 levels of LIGHTWALL. Level 1, which is within the first few frames of charging. The shake indicates level 2, and then fully charged is level 3, right? So the difference is they get more minus on, they get less minus on hit, so they're a little safer on block. Every single time you use it, like every single level, they get a little more safer on block. And the combos change. For instance, level 1 Light Wall, you can only confirm into far L. Level 2 Light Wall, will give you 2M. Or it will give you also far. Okay, I take it back, just 2M. So, why this is so good is just the damage is going to be very different between the two. That's a lot of damage changing between it. And it's important for some combos and stuff. But the real Mac Daddy is number 3. There's a full-on crumple effect, and you can really, really easily confirm off of it, like really easy. You have all the time in the world. So it's really strong. It's our highest damaging starter. It's just a really, 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 really good thing to have as level 3 Light Wall. If that hits, either opponent's going to rage quit or they're going to die. So yeah, it's really, really good. Now, the way that you can get to the higher levels, you don't just have to charge. Like, you don't have to charge it up to 69 frames to get it. What happens is if your opponent, I'm going to have Jita do a far H now. They hit it. You'll notice that was level 1 Light Wall. But, oops. That actually is level 2 Light Wall. That's because when your opponent hits your Light Wall, it actually increases the level by 1. So if I have a level 2 Light Wall, it's now a level 3. I didn't charge it up to full, but I still got a level 3 Light Wall. So that's how it increases. That's why Light Wall is so, there's so much, it's so intimidating, right? There's so much fear in pressing on it and challenging it because the difference between life and death is in the Light Wall levels, right? Level 2 to level 3, very big difference in what you get. So there's a lot of fear behind it. I'll get into using Light Wall offensively and using that fear later. But in general, for the neutral sense, it is just kind of a counterattack option when you can when you're in range of like the opponent's normals or think that they're going to dash up with something to kind of get you. You put out Light Wall, you counterattack, right? That's the general idea. Now, the issue with Light Wall, that is minus 15 on block. That sucks. On whiff, on whiff, it's minus 50. That's awful. So there's ways to make it safer. Of course, fully charged Light Wall is minus 11, which is a little safer, but not exactly what you want. But what you've noticed, if you've been paying attention, is that I've been canceling my Light Wall without doing the attack earlier. So something that you can do with Light Wall is you actually have 2 other follow-ups. Instead of the attack, you can do a 6-6, which will give you a dash forward, or a 4-4 backdash, which will give you a backdash. You'll cancel out of it. This is cool and all, and allows you to kind of throw the shield up and then make yourself safe or kind of get in with it in a kind of tricky way. But the issue is that you are very minus in their face. You're still losing ground, which again, you want to push your opponent to the corner, not back. So there is an inherent loss to doing this, right? It's safe on paper, right? You are safe. You're putting yourself at a distance. You're still losing, though. You're losing ground. So you don't want to just be throwing this out like crazy in neutral, you know? You are losing something. But something that you can do when adding everything together is you can actually do the hits and then do the dash. You can also, so both of them, right? The forward or the back. Which is really important because that actually can make the hit safe. Look at this distance. I'm -8, but look at this space. It's really hard to contest this space, especially against Katalina, and it's really hard to punish her for doing this. It's very susceptible to dodging. If they dodge that attack, you are taking a punish because there's a lot of recovery. Because if this whiffs, you cannot do the follow-up, right? So if they dodge it, you cannot do the dashes. So that's one issue with it. But you can actually just charge it to bait the dodge, right? So there's a little bit of rock, paper, scissors going on within Light Wall. So there's a lot going on within the move. So when you combine everything together, realistically, what Light Wall looks like is you throw it out when you think they're going to do a one-hit move. It doesn't work. You backdash. Instead of doing backdash, because they're getting used to backdash, you surprise them going forward and starting your turn if you're close to them. Or you do the attack, and then they block it. You do backdash. You do the attack, and they block it, so you do backdash, because that's what you do. There's literally no reason to do anything else but backdash. Please backdash after this move. Or they do actually get hit, right? And then you do forward and you confirm. And that's how you use LIGHTWALL. That is how you use LIGHTWALL. That's how you're going to be using LIGHTWALL. For pressure, it's got a little bit of a different use. But again, I'll go into that later. This is just how you use it in neutral. So yeah. So, as you can tell from my previous explanations, buttons in neutral are very much combined with each other, right? Specials, buttons, neutral, they all go together with this character. So I'm going to wrap up the neutral section by kind of just going over very basic ways in which they all combine together and situations and techniques that you need to be doing in neutral with this character to be effective with them. So let's talk about the ranges that neutral is happening. There are 3 ranges. There's going to be the full screen range, there's going to be the mid range, and of course the close range. This is kind of where neutral has ended, right? This is where you want to be to apply maximum pressure. But in reality, Granblue is a little different than some other anime fighters where being in their face isn't the most important thing. In reality, what you want to be is here with your opponent in the corner, right? So giving up space is only an option when necessary. You are not always going to be able to press forward in this game because there are opponents that are going to be using their pokes to keep you at bay, like Katalina does, right? But that's why there's this game, this little mind game going on in the neutral game, where your opponent you stand outside their range, right? So they whiff a move, you come in and you punish. And then if you're standing outside their range, they can come in and they can do their own 6XL, right? Because you're waiting, and then they start their turn. But if you throw out a button, you stop their 6XL. But if they stand outside of your button range and you whiff, then they can punish you. But if they're waiting for you to do a button, then you can come in after them. You see how everything just kind of gets really complicated, where you're kind of just guessing what the opponent is doing? Yeah, that's neutral. That's just kind of how it goes in this game, right? Katalina is unique because her buttons are so large. Like I talked about before, the way that they complement each other, it's very easy to keep people out. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to stay at the mid-range. You don't want to stay at the full screen range because your only option is really Fireball. That's kind of it. You don't have that many options. What you want to do is be at the mid-range because this is where you're most controlling. You want to stay outside of instant 6XL range. Because that's where your pokes are going to be the most valuable. When your opponent is trying to use their burst options, you can shut them down. And what you want to do is kind of stand outside of their range with your giant buttons. Keep them scared of the space that you're controlling by throwing out your own buttons and stuff. And being ready for the timings at which they attack. Because understanding your opponent is key to punishing them, right? So knowing when they start to do their mediums, when they start to do their H's, and when they start to whiff, that's going to give you your opportunity to get in, right? That's what's going to allow you to push them back. Slowly inching forward is great because they want to stay outside of your range, right? And your range is massive, so you're going to slowly push them back as you move forward yourself if you are really good at calling out their burst options. So it's really all about spacing, and it's all about staying at a space that you can maintain and control. Now, the thing about keeping this space is that you can give it up at any point by doing 2 and 4L. Using 2 and 4L, of course, the reward is great and you are safe on block, but you are giving up your turn in this. You're giving up your presence because you're now just minus in their face. You are safe, but you're still minus, so this is not the best spot to be in. But you can always trade that space for a quick burst option with 2 and 4L. Or you can lock it down further by doing Fireball, because Fireball this distance is going to be plus, and it's going to make your buttons a little more threatening and keep pushing them back, right? You play the Fireball game with them being able to jump, and then you anti-aeried, and if you're not fireballing, then they can come in and use their own buttons, so you play that game too. Neutral's complicated. That's the best way I can explain neutral. You have a lot of moves. I went through all the moves that really help shut neutral down, but at the end of the day, neutral's complicated, and your opponent is going to be trying their hardest to make their way around your moves. So remember, your moves have weaknesses. They don't hit the full screen. Some of them are minus. Some of them, they have blatant weaknesses like 2 and 4L. There's stuff like whiffing them. Some of them have high recovery. So keep in mind what your weaknesses are and understand your opponent and try to kind of piece them together, figuring out their habits, figuring out what they're pressing, what they're pressing. So if there's an opponent that loves 2M, far H them, right? You can hit far H and you can kill them for it, right? If it's an opponent that keeps trying to 6XL all the time, back up, 5L, far M, 2M, keep them at bay, right? If it's an opponent that really just cannot stop doing 6XM, simply block and wait because that's minus, right? Stuff like that. Like, you just have to keep in mind how your opponent plays and use Katalina's moves. Now, some things I'm going to warn about. Overuse of LIGHTWALL, or you talked about that. You should not be using this all the time. Overuse of 2 and 4M. You don't want to be using that all the time. This is really not the greatest game plan ever, doing this and just using Fireball with her specials. It's strong, but it's not going to be the most rewarding against an opponent who understands how dodging and rolling works very well and understands that habit. You're just going to get punished. You're going to lose space. You're going to push the opponent back, but you're going to be pushed back with them and be in their face and be minus. So it's just really not the best strategy. I would say take it slow, right? Take it slow and just calmly push your opponent back while using your big normals. When you get a hit, you're confirming into 2 and 4L, and to stay safe, you're doing 2 through 6 moves to keep your pokes even safer and apply a little bit of an extra special in there. But in general, for neutral, you just want to slowly push your opponent back, right? That's the best advice that I can give for the neutral game. Be ready to punish. Remember, if your opponent's doing something risky, you can use 2 and 4H to instantly cover. But if your opponent's doing something really reactable and startup that you can punish, you Fireball. It's really that easy, and it pushes them back so far too. If they block it, it's such a good move, right? So keep note of her best moves and her best tools and the way that they work together. You're gonna find neutral the best by just playing. It's really impossible for me to give you every single situation and every single reason to use one normal over the other. So really, you just gotta kind of take neutral at your own pace and just kind of learn the ways the other characters interact with Katalina's toolkit, so you can best understand how to approach neutral in each matchup. It's really an experience thing. You'll get it with time. So just take it slow. Don't be scared. Don't be too timid. You're a very oppressive character with a lot of good normals, so don't be scared to use them. Do not be scared to use them. But always remember that your opponent knows your character too, or they should know your character too, right? So they're going to be trying to stay outside of your range, and you use your burst options to punish them. So yeah, just keep in mind who they are, keep in mind what your character is, and just try your best to put the pieces together. Now the whole point of neutral, finally get that hit and put them in the corner, right? That's the entire point. The whole point is to transfer from neutral to pressure. So let's talk about pressure with this character. I think it's best to start at where neutral and pressure kind of intersect with each other, the pieces of the puzzle that kind of connect, because again, you're transferring from neutral to pressure now. So mainly what's going to happen is neutral and pressure are most connected at the mid screen. This is where your pressure is going to be your weakest, because your opponent is not backed up. They can backdash, they can try and get away. But it's so important to know how pressure works in the mid-screen, because it is very different than the corner. So at a mid-screen pressure, you're going to be pushing your opponent back a lot, and you kind of are working and from a mindset where you are throwing buttons out, right? Remember, play neutral. You're throwing out buttons. So how pressure works is a lot of times from neutral, it's going to be from your pokes, right? This is very important, right? So listen, this is a very, very important part of Katalina's pressure, and it is the way that her mediums and her fireball connect with each other. It's heavy too. It's the way that her pokes and her fireballs connect to each other, right? This is gonna really expand the amount of options Katalina has, is correct usage of pokes and fireballs. So a very easy way to make this -6 move safe, put a fireball behind it. You push them out really far, like really, really far, and if you do it from a distance, there's a gap between the fireball and the poke, but the gap is so small that it's really hard to do anything about it, and you're +2. Now, I'm using light fireball for a reason. Light fireball is slower. It makes that gap. Medium fireball, faster. There's not a gap, and you're just going to force them out. So it's a much safer option. But you're more negative, and you're just back to neutral, basically, right? You're just back to neutral. You don't really have any leg to stand on. Not like what light can give you, with giving you some plus rings, right? So there's a little more offensive value to using light, but a little more of a risk. Heavy is the best of both worlds. Fast and is way more plus, and is 3 hits and is great. So heavy is another one if you really, really need to get back in. That is an option. But you can artificially make your own way of moving from the mid-range to the close range through good fireball play. Now what that means is, let's say I'm using 2M a lot, right? Block 2M, I do that to make it a lot safer. We're back to neutral. And now you're thinking, well, he's just going to he's just doing the fireball, right? Like he's just doing the fireball. Oops, I cannot do special. I'm just doing 2M fireball, right? And just going back to neutral. But now, oh, shoot, wait, I'm +3 in your face now. What happened? Well, the opponent is so concerned about fireball that they've totally forgotten that you can just not use fireball and get in with 6XL. This is that's going to give you a lot of more artificial, riskier opportunities. You get to take advantage of kind of complacency behind just letting the fireball go, being able to use 6XL, or being able to throw in another poke into another fireball. You can kind of create your own pressure strings by combining the fireball and the normals together. So you'll get stuff where you have 2M into 6XL to start your turn, right? And then you'll have 2M into fireball to keep yourself safe, right? And you can kind of go between the two. So that's a good way of transferring from the neutral game to the pressure game, right? Because a lot of pressure actually starts with 6XL, especially a lot of mid-screen pressure. What's going to happen is you're going to hit someone mid-screen and you're going to end in like some sort of thrust, and then what you're going to get afterwards is 6XL. So you'll see, just have them not block. From a poke, you get 214L. You're going to have to 6XL afterwards, right? You don't really have enough time to get a true meaty close light. So you're going to have to do 6XL. And when you start 6XL pressure mid-screen, you really get pushed back a lot more than you do in the corner. So you have a lot more space you have to deal with. So with 6XL, your main strings mid-screen are going to be 6XL far light. Just because this is +2. This is 6-frame active, so there's only a 4-frame gap in between, so you can't get hit out of it. And then the far light is +1. So this is the first piece to your mid-screen pressure, right? Boom, boom. Because you're +1, you actually get to threaten 2 things. You get to threaten another 6XL, because you're plus and your opponent's scared to press, but you're +1. This requires 1 frame of dash startup and then an 8-frame 6XL, meaning that there's an 8-frame gap between the far light and the 6XL. 8 frames. That means your opponent can actually push like their own medium button or something to get you off. So this is what you also threaten after the far light. 2M. There's only a 6-frame gap. It reaches after the far light. And then, of course... Oh, look where we are. Oh my gosh, we're back to where we started. So, you start doing stuff like this. And all of a sudden, they're close to the corner. So, these puzzle pieces are really, really strong. Very, very strong pieces in terms of mid-screen pressure. And it's very easy for them to go back in on themselves if you have already conditioned your opponent to be scared of your fireball. Now, the truth is that fireball is not the scariest option. It's the safest option. In reality, the thing that your opponent is most scared of is actually getting hit, right? And if you hit the fireball, it doesn't actually do much. It doesn't do much at all. The one that does do a lot is 2 and 4L. Problem is that you can't really do 2 and 4L from up close. So that's why it's best behind from behind your pokes, right? So if they block, yeah, you're not at a good range. But if they block here, you're at a great range. And if they block if you're here, no gap. But if here, gap, and then you're plus. So, as you can see, there is a choice you have to make. Up close, you just want to do fireball to make it safe. But from a distance, this actually barely has a gap. A much smaller gap than the fireball does, right? So it's a much greater threat. The trade-off is that you totally lose your turn. You are totally lost neutral after it, so you're giving up your turn for the idea that you can actually hit them. Because again, they're not really that scared of the fireball. They're scared of this. So once you have established both 2-3-6 and 2 and 4L, that's when these become a lot stronger, right? So that's why this is an important part of pressure. This is an important part of pressure mid-screen. And between all of this, you always have the ability to go into really close range pressure too. So if you get a 6-6L, you're +2, you threaten this, far light. Sorry, not far light, close light instead, right? Because now you have got them scared. So now that you can do close light, you have a ton of options. Off of close light, you can go into 2L, because you can cancel close light 2L. So you can do close light 2L, or you can do close light 2L far L, because 2L cancels into far L, right? And then, oh my gosh, we're back again. Oh, everything just loops back into itself. Yeah, that's kind of how pressure works. It is a bunch of puzzle pieces that connect together in different ways, and it's they're all building blocks, right? So, this is a very typical pressure sequence. Very, very typical pressure sequence. And as you can tell, I mean, these are all things that go back into themselves, right? All plus. The risk is your opponent mashes, but you can always cover that with these really safe strings. Or punish it with 2 and 4L. So that's why all these things connect. Now this is the mid-screen, so these things are a lot weaker. 2 and 4L is more of an option in the mid-screen because they get pushed back much further, so it's a lot safer. The corner is a little bit different. So let's talk about more advanced pressure in the corner. Corner pressure is going to be a little more advanced. There's a little bit more going on, but that is mainly because the wall is to the back of the opponent. They really have nowhere to go. It's very difficult for them to kind of actually deal with what you want to do, and you have to deal with them coming at you. It is no longer them backing away from you and letting themselves get pushed out for you to lose your turn, but instead they have to leave the corner, right? So that's why eventually when you are doing pressure, you're eventually going to get backed out, and then it's up to you to secure the corner. First, let's start by talking about what you actually do when you're up close to the opponent. So before we get into strings and stuff like that, what's going to happen is when you're putting your opponent in the corner, you're going to get some sort of knockdown. So if you're transitioning from the mid-screen and all of that stuff, you're probably going to get some sort of thrust knockdown. If that is the case, Oki is going to be 6-6L, just like it is mid-screen. But there are other knockdowns in the corner that are going to be more easily accessible. So most corner combos with this character actually end in DP. That is going to make it so that if it ends in DP, you get a close light meaty, right? So the close light is going to be active when they wake up and is a safe jab, so it's actually safe to reversals that aren't ultimate DPs, aren't ultimate skill DPs, right? So that's going to be one of your main knockdowns is from this, right? From that. So knockdowns in the corner in general are going to give you a close light. So either in the corner you're going to be starting from 6-6L, but most of the time you will be starting from close light. Or the other option. The other option is you get some sort of hard knockdown. This can come from a super, this can come from a sweep, right? And then you get a safe jump afterwards. So a safe jump, all it is that it's safe to all reversals. because after you land, it's fast enough that you can crouch, and on block and on hit, it's plus enough to either combo or start your turn. You'll see on block, it is very plus. Even the light all the way down is plus enough to actually start your turn very easily. So yeah, safe jumps are another great way. But all of this, right, except for 6XL, all of this will go into close light. And like we talked about before, you can make 6XL go into close light. But yeah, so we're going to start from close light as the cornerstone of your pressure. So close light is going to be +4 on block, right? So you have a lot of options from close light. Close light, you can micro dash back into itself. You can frame trap with it by doing another delayed close light, because after you get pushed out from close light, you're still in range to do another close light. You're not quite in range to do far light yet, except for if you wait the maximum amount of time, or if you're not like all the way in, you might get it. But if you are dashing in and you do close light, you're going to get 2 close lights, right? So keep that in mind. And you're +4 on each of these. So it is very easy to stay in. But again, there's still a gap in between close light to 6XL, so you always have to be wary of that. But it is just like the mid-screen, where there are puzzle pieces that come together. So just like the mid-screen, you have close light to L, far L. And again, you hit far L, so you have the same idea with 6XL to get back in, or 2M to punish them for mashing. The corner, I would add in 5M as an option after far L, because a lot of people like to jump because they want to get out of the corner. So that's why 5M becomes a good option, because it will catch people jumping, right? There's one more frame of gap in between the far light and the far M, but that really doesn't matter. So I wouldn't even really worry about that. I'll just say that's a good thing to throw in if you notice your opponent likes to jump a lot. And as you can see, just like that, we're back to the exact same space that we were before. But the difference is that the corner actually gives you a lot more options because they can't back away. The main option being throw. Throw is a lot scarier in the corner than it is in mid-screen, because the mid-screen is really easy to backdash away, and it's really easy to make a lot of space that you have to cover. But in the corner, you're very much in front of them and stuck to them, right? So it's very easy to do strike through situations. So for strike those situations, they're mainly going to be coming from close light or 2L. These are the 2 strike throw moves, that they're main ones, right? So close light's very simple. You close light, you throw, or you close light and then you do some strike of some sort. The main 2 are going to be another close light. Like that said, like this, that's why delaying these lights are so good, right? Is because you'll hit people who are trying to tech throw or mash, or close medium. Now, other characters can use their close heavy. Unfortunately, you can get thrown out of that. If people are mashing throw, they will actually throw you out of your close heavy. So you want to do close light, close medium as a frame trap. Again, +4, 6 frame startup, 2 frame gap. So that's why that's a really good trap. Of course, you can also do close light 2L, just delay the 2L just a little bit to catch people who are trying to mash. But yeah, close light into throw or kind of any strike is a really great option. 2L, you can do the same. 2L is a little bit interesting, because if you start your pressure with close light, right, you get pushed out and you're +4. If you do instant throw, the throw will whiff. But you'll notice something that's a little different with 2L. If you start your turn with 2L, throw, just straight up, instantly works. And that's really hard to react to. That is a really fast throw. So why is this happening? What is the difference between close light to 2L? Well, the difference is this is +4 and pushes you out far, right? So you have to wait longer to do the throw. This is -2 and you're stuck in their face. This being -2 makes the throw come out faster, because you cannot throw people in plus frames. So you have to wait until you're not plus, and then you can throw. This, you just throw, right? That's scary. So the issue is that this is minus, right? So you have to do 2L if you want to make it safer. 2L close light to make that safe. So you do run a really good strike throw off the 2L, but close light gives you access to a lot more pressure, because +4 is much better than -2. So there's a lot of options. You kind of have to choose. If you want to force a strike throw, 2L is great. If you want more solid pressure and more plus frames, close light's great, right? So another option you have from this strike throw range is bait, which is going to be backdash. You want to have a backdash macro to make this easier. You cannot run forward and then do the backdash. It's not going to happen. You have to walk, and then you can do the instant backdash. So this is going to bait throw because backdash is throw invincibility, right? So you're going to do, and then start the walk up after your close light, and then you're going to backdash, right? And you do far H or something when they try to tech it, and you just absolutely decimate them with Catalina's corner damage, right? So that's another aspect to it. And you can do this off of like pretty much most things. You can bait a throw because a lot of people like the throw tech. But be wary because if the opponent mashes, you do get hit. But again, that's why you have frame traps. That's why you have these types of strings, right? It's to cover you trying to open up your opponent. So, let's say you get into triple attack somehow, right? You have the overhead, you have the low, you can cancel into 236 H, which will make you plus again. So that's a way you can transfer the triple attack into plus frames, because if they eat the overhead, you're plus. And if they eat the low, you're plus. But if they block it, you're safe and your turn ends and it's fine, right? Great. It's all dandy. So that's how you get out of triple attack and convert it into more pressure. And in general, if you need more pressure, you have the fireball. Right? The fireball is plus enough that you can get back in and you can challenge that space. But the issue is rolling and dodging and pressure. This is a little more of an advanced thing that you're going to deal with when you get higher up in the ranks, is people who understand how to play around roll and how to play around dodge in Catalina's specials, and how to punish her for actually trying to do specific specials. Because this pressure is great and all, right? This is really important. But when you get spaced out, there's gaps. Bigger gaps show. So I'm going to go into a little more advanced techniques when it comes to pressure, and these apply to both mid-screen and the corner when it comes to dealing with rolls, dodges, DPs, people trying to get out of your pressure, and the use of LIGHTWALL. Where Katalina falters, that is going to be in the dodge and the roll mechanic of this game. A lot of things that she does actually lose to dodge and lose to roll, and actually she can get punished for it because there's risk to it. Specifically, off of her pokes. Now this applies to what I was talking about in the mid-screen, and it applies to what I was talking about in the corner. Because your opponent always can do dodge afterwards. So I will have the opponent do evade on block, right? So they're dodging. So as you can see, I am -2 now. So my plus fireball, this is a range where the fireball will be plus, is now -2. That gives them a lot more options because they're not scared of me being plus anymore, right? Now there's still a distance that they have to cover, but I have not gained anything from doing that. Like at all. I've not gained anything from doing the fireball. I've actually lost I've lost that situation there because I've ended up being minus. Again, you still control the corner, but it's just a little bit harder because they know what you're doing. Now the worst offender is H fireball. You're the most negative if they dodge that, and you have lost your fireball for absolutely nothing. You went from plus 7, 10 to -5, right? Like it's not a good situation to be in. The true issue with all of it, though, is not evade. No, not evade. But the roll. So you'll see, they have rolled in my face and they are +5. Yeah. That's scary. Because you get to situations like this. Oh, they're +5 in my face. Like, they're in close light range. I am punishable. That's the issue. I am now punishable because I did H Fireball. So you run a little bit of risk of trying to regain your turn. Now this also applies to L Fireball, but they're just +2. You're not punishable, right? So just keep that in mind. L Fireball is the safer option. But but you get less of it on block. Like on block, if they block the L fireball, it's not a guaranteed get back in tool, you know, like H fireball is. So there's a little bit of risk. So if your opponent is understanding your tendencies and understanding that you're really trying to get back in with H fireball and such, they can blow you up for it. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, how do you get around this, though? How do you play around this? Because, I mean, you want to get back up. Like, you want to try and strike throw them again, but they just keep dodging. Like, they just seem to know what you're going to do. Like, like, what in the world? They just know. There is a simple answer, and it is understand that they want to dodge and use that to their disadvantage. Let's take this, for example. They keep dodging my far light, which is okay. Look at that. I'm pretty plus. I can actually punish them for that. But they dodge my 2M, not so much. They dodge my close H, not so much. Like, that's not the best. They dodge my fireball, not the best. What you can do is use this against them because there's a really big a recovery to dodge or roll that you can actually abuse. So you wait, and then you kill them. You wait. Oops. And then you kill them. So that's just a timing that you're just going to have to learn and get used to, is understanding people who are instantly trying to dodge and blowing them up for it, because it's something that you can do and should get used to, because people will try to dodge this. But if you think about it, what you have done is realistically done the other piece of the puzzle. Instead of doing this, you have done this. So you see how it's a really good idea to dodge and try to challenge Katalina on offense, but at the end of the day, there's always that other option that Katalina has, that 6-6L to get back in and punish you for doing that. So really, it's not the safest. There's still an inherent risk, because as the Katalina player, you can always at any point do this kind of artificial plus frame idea and blow up the opponent for trying to actually deal with fireball. Now, the other thing that you can do with Katalina to deal with both roll and dodge is something that a lot of people don't know about, don't think about, and don't understand, which is 214L. So you'll see that instead of doing this, I actually do this. Oh, wait, that's a no escape throw. That's a punish. Oh, wait. Oh, what in the world? Oh, that's crazy. Wait, so my move that used to lose me neutral, that used to lose me my turn if blocked, if on dodge, is actually a free throw. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's because after you dodge, if they instantly dodge your 2 and 4L, you're +4 in their face, which is a free throw. A lot of people don't know this, but it's something that you can use to further dissuade the use of dodge, which empowers your ability to use H fireball and your ability to make them scared and crying little children in the corner, and use these artificial resets to get your turn back, right? To make them not dodge all of this and stuff, right? Now, I didn't talk a lot in the earlier segment about 2 and 4L in corner pressure, mainly because it's just not a very good idea. There really isn't any point to doing this when you could just do fireball. Fireball just has such a less inherent risk than your 2 and 4L. Another thing, keep in mind, I'm saying 2 and 4L. I am not saying 2 and 4M. This move is going to be very minus, very minus in your face. So at spaces where 2 and 4L is going to be safe, yeah, do not use 2 and 4M. Same with 2 and 4H. Touching on 2 and 4H for 1 second, this is something really important for people who are newer to this character. Please do not do this. Oh my gosh, no way. Guard Crush? Wait, Guard Crush? I get a combo after it? Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, so don't ever do this ever. There's this thing in this game that we've been talking about called dodge or roll, or even jumping, that makes it so that you will get punished. You will 100% get punished for doing this crappy garbage move. You have 79 frames for the opponent. The opponent has 79 frames to react to this and to do something against it. And yeah, it's just not a very good option. Please do not use 2 and 4H or charge 2 and 4H for like after poke and stuff. this is not, you don't want to do that. Another normal for pressure that I didn't really touch on, but is also important slightly, is sweep. It's your longest reaching low, but it's very minus, so you're gonna have to cancel into something, right? Not that, but you're gonna have to cancel into a fireball. The sweep range is not the best for 2 and 4L, so you kind of have to use fireball. So the thing about sweep is that on hit you get knocked down, so you can't go for a safe jump and you restart your turn, right? But your cancel options aren't good, and its range is not the best. It's really good for people who are trying to wiggle after something like that, after like 6XL far L to you. It's going to catch people who are trying to wiggle a little bit or trying to maybe delay jump out or something, right? It'll catch them at their feet, and that's pretty good because on hit it's very easy to go an H fireball into a full combo. But in general, it's just not the best tool. When you have something like 2M, that's just a much better, safer option than 2U. Now, here's the thing about pressure with Katalina. Katalina has a secret trick up her sleeve that a lot of other characters don't have, and that's with LIGHTWALL. So LIGHTWALL can actually be used as an offensive measure. The thing about LIGHTWALL is that, like I talked about before with the leveling system and the damage that she can get off this, it is really scary to challenge on LIGHTWALL. As well as absorbing an entire hit, characters will try to use their pokes to get out, like Sheeta from this distance will try to threaten like a 5H or a far M to try and escape LIGHTWALL. So that's why LIGHTWALL is something that's a really good use in pressure, just because it can dissuade opponents even trying to use their normals, their single hit normals to get out, or specials too. So LIGHTWALL is really strong in that sense. Something that LIGHTWALL is really good for is resetting. So you use the Fear of LIGHTWALL and its attack, because again, you can make it safer and make distance between you. You can use this fear to just cancel into dodge and just dash forward. What are they going to do? Challenge you LIGHTWALL? No, they have to react to this. Now, it is reactable, like it is a reaction check, but there's so much going on in pressure. There's so much that you have to look out for. Your opponent is thinking, when are they going to 6XL back in? How am I going to get out of the corner if they get pushed away? Are they going to use their fireball to get back in? Are they going to use 2 and 4L if I try to mash a button here? Am I going to get hit? Am I going to get counter hit? Am I going to die because I'm up against the wall and Katalina can combo me into 3000% damage? LIGHTWALL. And they're not ready for this, right? This is just something that it can be used to further add on your options and further add on your layers to get back in. So a really tricky thing you could do is poke range, LIGHTWALL, dash in, throw. Or LIGHTWALL in, backdash, because they're going to try and throw you, right? So, of course, you can just go back in and do normal pressure. But in general, this is a scary option. But you can't overuse it. People are going to get used to you just doing this, right? Because it is so minus. I mean, at its fastest, 31 frames. Like, 31 frames total duration, that's half a second they have to react. A human can definitely do that in that time. So you are going to get punished for it eventually. Or it can just happen to people who are looking at it enough. But again, if they're looking at this, they're probably not looking at another option, so there is something else that you can do. LIGHTWALL is still a very usable option. For both making distance if need be and closing distance if you can, right? If you can get away with it. So I would say use it later in a string. You want to show your other options first. Make sure that those are present. You want to make sure that your opponent's scared, because then you can LIGHTWALL in, right? Then you throw it in. It's a surprise. It's a little trick, you know? It's a little party trick. The thing about LIGHTWALL is that the attack is still there. People are going to try and dodge the attack a lot. So of course you can charge the LIGHTWALL. I already talked about this before. You can charge the LIGHTWALL and just have your opponent will just try and dodge it. But if you charge it, you'll hit them. That'll deal a lot of damage. But LIGHTWALL hit, you can go back. This is a very safe ender to your pressure. Because you can do it from such a long range. You hit far M, LIGHTWALL, go back, and then there's this range that you're covering. And people know you're -8, so they'll try to press. So this is a very easy trap you can set up. and they get hit because they're trying to do a button, right? Very, very simple trap that you can do. Very, very, very effective, especially against people who don't really know how to fight this move. And because they're scared of light wall, you're back in. See, it all kind of connects. And light wall is a really key part of her pressure because it's a really good reset and just a really good tool to understand how to use. Yeah, so that's how you're going to be using light wall and pressure a lot. This does also work mid-screen because, again, this dash distance is really far, so you can use it mid-screen. They'll get pushed back, but, you know, you can still get back in with light wall. So you can kind of use it the same way, right? Now, here's the thing. Eventually, what's going to happen is you're going to, their strike throw, they're going to be right, and you're gonna get pushed back. They're gonna attack. You're gonna have to back up. Eventually, you're gonna go from up close pressure and doing all of your options, and you're gonna get pushed out because you're choosing the safe option. Eventually, you're gonna stop taking a risk to get back in. You're gonna choose the safe option. You're gonna become at this distance, and then you're gonna be out of moves. Now comes the most important part of pressure, which is corner pressure. This is not just opening up your opponent, this is making your opponent open themselves up by having them make a mistake trying to escape the corner. They want to leave and you get to use that against them. So, when establishing corner pressure, you have to know the range that you're working at. You want to make sure it's like neutral. You want to be at a stance where their 6XL is going to whiff, their buttons are going to whiff, and where you can counterattack them. Once you're at this range, the opponent might try to move forward, like Vegeta will try and inch forward like this to get out. This is the correct way to try and push your opponent back, so you can slowly get back to neutral. But you can abuse their passiveness trying to get out of the corner by using your own burst options. Again, we're kind of back to the neutral triangle, except you're forcing them to approach you. So they're coming closer to you, bam, you're back in. You're covering this range, then you're back in, right? Now, again, you're going to want to use your buttons. Don't be afraid to whiff here. You're trying to cover the range. You're trying to make them scared of getting in your face. Be mindful of what buttons you use, right? You don't just want to just mindlessly whiff buttons, but you want to make sure that you're using your buttons wisely and just showing that you can use them to cover space, because your opponent will be more scared and just feel kind of boxed in and have no clue what to do. And that's when they'll start to get a little more rash. That's when your opponent will start to use their own heavy moves to beat your mediums. That's when your opponent will try and jump out to get you, right? But that's really kind of useless because you're at a position where you can correctly react and deal with all of those options. If the Vegeta jumps, you 2H. If they press a button, you're already ready with your larger button just outside of theirs, and you can punish them for it and get a really good punish for it. The Vegeta tries to 6-6 kill them for it. The Vegeta slowly walks forward, you use some sort of burst option, you get back in, right? And then you start it all over again. And then you have another opportunity for a strike or a throw. So your opponent will slowly get, either they will literally just sit there and wait for you to make a mistake, because eventually you will guess wrong, because there's always a guessing game and a risk reward involved, or they'll get angsty, they'll get anxious, they will try and move, and they'll get destroyed for it if you just play solid and just clean enough, right? You want to play solid. You don't want to make rash judgment. You just want to play careful, because again, you're advantageous. Your opponent is disadvantageous. They have to deal with you. You're not dealing with them, right? You're the wall between them and freedom. So you just have to keep that. This is a winning position. This is super important for winning this game, for learning how to play this game. This is a winning position. You are not inherently threatening them or their HP bar, but you are applying pressure that you can't see on the screen. This is a position where your opponent is stuck, and you are tasked with keeping that first and foremost. You can use that position to get back in if they're scared enough, but most importantly, you need to keep them in the corner, right? So it's okay to just sit there. It's okay to play patient and wait for them to make the choice. You don't always have to be holding forward. You can be sitting here, you can throw your fireballs, right? You can wait for them to try and do a 6XL or a 6XM. It's okay for them to make a little bit of space because they're still having to come to you. So as long as you keep your ground and correctly space yourself and correctly throw in burst options and pokes and wait for them to jump and wait for them to do a stupid move and punish them for it, you're going to be on the path to making them feel like they literally have no option and they have no clue what to do, right? That's how you want your opponent to feel. So that's the basics of pressure and making your opponent open themselves up. I will say one of the most important things of pressure is dealing with defensive mechanics in this game. Your opponent is going to super, your opponent is going to DP if they have one. Everyone has a universal ultimate DP, which is very hard to deal with. But I will say for those are really simple. You simply don't do the follow-up attack, right? You don't do the frame trap, you don't do the throw, you wait for them, you know when they're going to DP, you wait for them to do it. Now this can be a wake up too, right? So if they get knocked down, if you knock them down somehow, if you do a safe jump, then their DP, it's not going to work, right? But if you do a safe jab, because if you time a meaty jab, so oops, if you time a meaty jab to, wow, okay, I'm just bad at this game. If you time a meaty jab to when they're getting up, you can also, that jab will beat DPs too. So that's a way to get around it, and a way to, they also beat supers too. But in general, that's not where people are going to DP because they know that those beat them. They're going to be DPing in between your 6XL and your far out. They're going to be DPing between your far out and your 2M. They're going to be DPing between your close light and your close light. They're going to be DPing between your close light or your throw. Like, those reset moments are where DPs are strongest. So you can risk losing your turn to kill them for trying to get out and flipping the situation, right? I will say this, their DP is a bigger risk than you continuing your turn. Do not be so frightened by the idea of them reversing the situation that you give up your offense when you could have kept it going, right? Never let the pressure go. If you have to take a second to try and bait out a DP, so be it. But remember, you're advantageous. Stay in that mindset. Keep them guessing. Keep them scared. Now, what's more powerful than a Dragon Punch is a Brave counter. A Brave counter is super strong. Now, Brave counter in Season 2 did get nerfed, so that it's -2 after the opponent blocks it. But regardless, it's still a really easy way for the opponent to get out of certain situations. So if I have Vegeta... Oops. Okay. If I have them block and then Brave counter me, you'll see that I get blown back after I get hit by the Brave counter, right? Now, if I get really hit by the Brave counter like that, you see how it says counter on it? I cancel into a special, and so I got hit during the move. This way, I actually get knocked down and they're plus 54. It's a total reversal of the situation. It's like getting hit by an ultimate DP. I get totally knocked down. So either way, if you get hit by Brave Point, you lose your turn and they gain a lot of space, and that's a really big detriment. Katalina is unique. She has a very good way of dealing with LIGHTWALL that very few characters have this option available to them, but Katalina, she does. And that is a move that invalidates one attack and does a counter attack. Oh, wait, what am I talking about? LIGHTWALL. So, LIGHTWALL, boom. Need I say more? I mean, need I say more? Need I say more? Look at that damage. So, yeah. Katalina has the ability to call out Brave Counter basically anytime they want because they have this incredibly safe option in LIGHTWALL that very easily beats Brave Counter. and has a ton of follow-ups. Even if you don't beat the Brave counter. Oh, this character is awesome. You could just do that. You don't braid the Brave counter, just backdash, just back off. Don't braid it. Actually, go for a throw. If you don't bait it, just go for a throw. Now, of course, you have your other defensive options like being able to dodge Brave counter, as well as being able to block it too. But those just don't give you the same reward as LIGHTWALL does, and that's why LIGHTWALL is such an important tool for the universal defensive options in this game. As a brief overview on pressure in general, your main puzzle pieces and main components are your very simple string that you can put together, your very safe string with not a lot of gaps, which you are going to use to condition your opponent to get used to it, so that you can kind of open them up through taking advantage of their fear of actually choosing an option, their complacency and passiveness. You're going to use that against them by finding ways to get back in. So very simple string like this, that's going to be a very key component to your pressure, because it's going to allow you to get back in with 6XL. And then once you're far out, you're just going to want to keep the corner. And all the time while you're doing this, all of these things that are plus are great, great places to throw and throw, and just make the opponent scared of what you're going to do next, right? You always have these options available to you. You always have the frame traps, you always have the H fireball to become plus again, you always have waiting to see if they're going to DP, seeing if they're going to dodge, seeing if they're going to roll forward, seeing if they're going to jump, and you always have ways to get back in and ways to keep them out, right? And that is really the basis of pressure. That's the very simple way of going about it. There's a ton of variety in strings and what you want to be doing, but you want to combine all that, and you want to try and remove the universal defensive mechanic of Brave counter as much as you can through LIGHTWALL. And in general, you can use LIGHTWALL as a defensive or offensive mechanic when it comes to pressure, and you're just focused on keeping them in the corner and kind of letting them run out their timer and kind of letting them make the mistake and then capitalizing off of it, right? Not being too antsy, not being too scared, and not just trying to close the gap just because you want to hit them. Just being patient, letting the opponent open themselves up, right? That is Katalina. So that's her pressure. Next, I'm going to go into defense with this character. Alright, so defense with Katalina is very similar to defense with most characters in this game, just because she doesn't have any truly unique defensive options outside of LIGHTWALL, which is incredibly situational. So, the most basic part of her defense is obviously blocking, right? Get used to it if you're new to this game and you play a lot of anime fighters that kind of have more ignorant defensive options, or push block, or ways to get your opponent off of you, and you're not used to just down backing. Get used to it. Taking the throw is not a bad idea in this game, because the strike is so much more damage and so much risky. It's so risky, right? It's so risky to even tech in this game sometimes, especially against top tiers. So just get used to down backing. I think that's something that a lot of newer players would greatly gain from, just being okay with not always answering something, being okay with just sitting there a little bit longer, because it will take you far. So get used to down backing, right? Get used to just blocking in general, because you want to try and respond to what they're doing up close to you, right? Trying to correctly play the RPS situation, the strike throw, because you want them to get pushed out, right? So in terms of defense, it's really difficult to do anything when they're close to you, just because they're usually going to be in plus situations. They're going to be trying to frame trap you. It's going to be hard to mash out because they're right on top of you. So, what options do you have? Instead of just being passive, you do have some active options. Obviously, defense in this game, I'm talking about reversals, right? Talking about reversing the situation. So for Katalina, you have your Skybound art, You have your super skybound art, right? These are very basic reversals. Everybody has access to their reversal super. Catalina's no different. One of the things that Katalina has that most of the characters have is an invincible DP. So it's not just an anti-air tool. Of course, the medium version is invincible in startup and 9 frame startup too. So it's pretty quick. It's pretty good. The H version is 11 frame startup. It's a little slower. And then the fastest one out of all of them, the ultimate version, right? So the ultimate version costs 50 meter and it is frame 8. That's important. Keep this in mind. This is very, very key to understanding ultimate DPs. They beat safe jabs. So I mentioned in the pressure how safe jabs will beat DPs. Well, I sort of lied because UDP will always beat a safe jab, no matter how perfectly timed that safe jab is, because the math works out where that 1 frame difference between the 9 frame medium DP and the 8 frame UDP is the difference between the safe jab getting hit or not. So that's what makes UDP so good. They're going to lose the safe jumps, so keep that in mind. They will lose the safe jumps, but they will beat safe jabs, right? But in general, what you're looking for is kind of understanding the opponent's offense. Understanding pressure is really key to understanding defense in this game, because once you understand the reset points that characters have, you're going to realize when those other characters try to do it to you. Remember, this is about Katalina, but a lot of what she does carries over between characters. So you're going to have a lot of other characters trying to do the same types of strings. If you look at Jita, she herself, she can do the same stuff that Katalina can. She can do this exact same game plan, right? Except she has her own unique stuff with her specials. That's just a little bit different. But as you can see, she could play the exact same game plan that Katalina can, just to different degrees of excellence. So understanding the reset points and strings in your own pressure is really good when it comes to learning other characters, because you're going to notice, oh yeah, they are doing 6XL at the far light into another 6XL. That's a place I can DP, right? You're noticing, oh, they're going for 2L into throw. I can DP through that 2L into that throw, right? Like, you're going to start noticing the spaces where there are gaps and taking advantage of it. That also gives you knowledge on when they're going to be pushed back. Okay, that's another key thing. If you do successfully win the strike through situation and you don't do anything too rash and your opponent simply takes the safe option and lets themselves get pushed out, now you're playing at this space, right? So at this space, Katalina has a few options. So when talking about the opponent getting out, now we are the opponent trying to get out, right? So for Katalina, DP is no longer an option, obviously. It's going to whiff. It'll work if you know your opponent's going to try and get back in, but that's such a risky play. It's not the best idea. Now we kind of get to do what the opponent could do to us in pressure ourselves. So obviously, against characters who have fireballs, right, have projectiles for their enders, now we have the ability to roll. Now we have the ability to dodge. Now we have the ability to jump, right? So those are options that you want to keep in the back of your mind. Now this is going to be a character specific thing. There are some characters that don't have fireballs. There are some characters that have different ways of catching all of these options, right? So this is just a matchup experience thing that'll come with time. As you learn each character and learn what their strings are. But in general, now we have options such as rolling. You think the opponent's going to do a big normal or fireball, roll through, punish, right? We're getting out of the corner. One of the strongest options is going to be the slow kind of make your way out, right? Make your way out, going forward and then going back to blocking, right? Slowly kind of inching your way out. That's going to be super, super helpful for gaining space, because we've kind of reversed the situation. Before, you have your Katalina and you're keeping your opponent in the corner. Now you're really good at forcing the opponent out and giving you even more space just because your buttons are so big, right? That's one of the things that makes Katalina so good on defense, is the fact that she can push other characters back too. So you have your own burst options, right? Once the opponent has made distance, you have 2 and 4L. You have your own fireball you can fight with. Obviously, we're getting at a pretty far distance now, but from this range, you have your 2M. 7-frame move. It's going to destroy their attempts to get back in, and it will beat them trying to just kind of wiggle around and kind of slowly move. It'll push them back even further on hit or on block, right? Giving you even more space. It's a great situation to be in. And now we force them out with our big normals, we're kind of back to neutral again, right? And so you're back to the neutral game, which is very good because you very much changed the situation. So of course the normals are going to be good, but if the opponent plays it safe, right, and they stay outside of these normal ranges, and then they counter poke us or something for being a little too quick on the buttons, then you're in a bad spot. So that's where the inching forward comes into play. That's where the use of the fireball comes into play. That's where using this at a safe distance, and I repeat, a safe distance comes into play, right? But there's also your, like I said, rolling as a call out, jumping as a call out. Keep those in mind. Now, light wall can be an option, but this is only going to be against characters who kind of have stuff like Catalina's thrust, for example, because you know that they're going to try and come in and keep you in the corner or something, and try and take up that space. This is a very good counter move. But in general, this is a very unsafe idea, especially doing this raw slide, because if you think about the mind of your opponent. They're sitting there waiting for you to do something. They're waiting to react. They're going to be ready for this. This is just not a good or safe idea. They're going to be ready to dodge this. You want to do this only if you know that your opponent is going to try something, because you don't really have the distance that you can back up to make it safe. So light wall is just a very risky option to do. So I would not recommend you do it a lot. Maybe to kind of push them back on pokes, right? To surprise them and really quickly change the situation to being your turn. But still, that comes at its own risks when you can just play it safe and kind of slowly inch your way out, right? Now, you can use your own burst options, right? Again, you can 6XL. If they get pushed back, they do the fireball there, you block it. You can kind of try and take your turn back. But again, they're typically advantageous and trying to keep you in the corner. So just be aware of their spacing, and you're kind of playing the neutral game again. You just have no space to back up with. You can't. It's really hard for you to play the whiff punish game if they find their way back into their range. So you just want to kind of slowly make your way out and not make too many big decisions, because these buttons, some of your buttons on whiff, are a really big deal, and the damage that you're going to take for screwing up is a lot bigger because you're in the corner. So you just want to be a little more careful, right? Now, a button that is actually pretty good on defense is going to be sweep. So her sweep is nothing crazy. It's not grand sweep, which is an insane button. It is slow at 8 frames. But again, the reward for sweep is actually quite insane. I mean, if I hit it, I've totally switched the situation. You just do sweep at the super jump forward, and then JU, and look at that. I control the corner now. Like, that is a huge reward. So this is a good button to use when you think they're going to 6XL back in, right? Or you think they're going to do far L into 5H or something like that, right? That gap after far light is going to be a good idea to use sweep in. I wouldn't use this all the time. There's a risk. You are literally hitting an 8-frame move in the middle of their plus frames and their pressure, but it is a disrespect tool that has an incredibly high reward. So I would remember that is an option. Again, don't just down back and wait to spam it so that you can get your turn back, but it is a good option with very, very high reward. So keep that in the back of your mind. I will say, in terms of mashing, right, in terms of just getting the opponent off of you, far light 2M are going to probably be your best bets. I mean, far medium, yeah, it hits the furthest, but in terms of defense, that doesn't really matter because your opponent's probably going to be pretty close to you anyway. So if you want to get them off you, 2M is great because it's 7 frames. That is so fast for a button of this size. So it's going to be a really good way of getting your opponent off you. It's a great call out for them kind of waiting a second before trying to attack, trying to see if you're going to DP. 2M is a great move to be pressing. Far light, of course, too. It's big, it's really fast, it's plus, great normal. So yeah, but again, it will lose to mediums and heavies, so that's why it's not always the best choice. So those two are good options. I would definitely represent those two on reference, represent those two on defense when you're trying to find your way out, because those will definitely be moves that will push the opponent back. And of course, on block, you can make them super safe with the fireball, because you don't really care about pushing them back too far, or being like getting a knockdown and totally reversing the situation. What you care about is pushing them back and being safe, because you're so close to the wall, right? You just want to play it nice, safe, and solid. So yeah, those are great moves. Of course, what this character has is the ability to combo into 236U, which is very important, and it makes her pokes that much more deadly on reversing a situation. So this is something that Katalina it's very unique to her, and one of the things that makes her so good is this. Random poke. You're in the corner now for 50 meter. That's pretty strong. So that just kind of bumps up, if you have 50 meter, the value of your pokes by a lot, for the fact that you can both hit confirm into that, and just put them into the corner if they do get hit. So your challenges actually hold a lot of value that other characters don't have. Even then, combos into range strike off random hits do a lot of damage and have a lot of corner carry. As you can see, we're already at the corner. So there's a lot of pressure to be careful around playing around Katalina's moves. So you are a challenge even on defense. Like, there's a lot going for this character defensively. Of course, 214U does have armor, so you might think, oh, that's a great move for me to use defensively. Not up close, because the armor is so late. And the only time you're really going to even be using it is at the range where they want to try and reset with a 6-6M, or throw out a projectile, or do their own forward advancing special to keep you in the corner. This range where they're kind of out and they're just trying to keep you in the corner, that's when this is okay to use. I wouldn't use it all the time, because again, it's reactable, dodgeable, and then you get punished. But still, it is an option that you have that can go through a move pretty easily and kind of reverse the situation. So keep that in mind. That is definitely a good tool that you can represent. Just not all the time, right? In general, I'd say something that's really kind of more advanced for defense is delay, also known as fuzzy. Fuzzy is a very strange term in the FGC. If you're new, you're going to hear it a lot in a variety of situations. But fuzzy, I'm just talking about delaying. So for instance, fuzzy mash, fuzzy jump, fuzzy tech. All I mean is sitting and blocking, right? And kind of waiting just a few moments after a move, after you block a move, to actually mash. Because what's going to happen is if your opponent's looking out for DP, right? So say G just sitting here looking out for DP, they're going to do 5L2L far L. They're going to wait a second, and then they're going to do their normal, right? In that second, if you just simply waited for them to do the far light, and then waited like just a few moments later and then did your own far light, you would hit them while they're waiting for the DP. But if they instantly did the 5M or the 2M after the far light, because you waited just a little bit longer, you would have blocked it, right? Because you would have been hitting the far light when you're already in block stun from blocking the 2M. So that's what I mean by fuzzy mash. That's a great way to catch people trying to walk up backdash, right? Because there's a big gap. But if they do boom, boom to you, you won't actually get hit because you are delaying, right? You're blocking in those frames instead of actually hitting. You have delayed your mash, right? Now you can do the same thing and apply it to jump. You can do the same thing and apply it to teching, like waiting just a few seconds to tech, just because they might try to delay their throw or something like that. Like that is definitely something that you have to get more of a feel for. I don't think it's something that beginners should be super worried about, but in general, that is a more advanced defensive option that can get you pretty far, just because you mess a lot with the timings of your opponents, and you mess around a lot with their ability to really get a read on what you're trying to do, right? Which is super important for defense. You want your opponent to be guessing on their own offense. That's what makes a good defender, right? That's what makes good defense, is just keeping it fresh, keeping it unique, making sure that you're not representing too much of one option, and that you're making your opponent scared to even think of getting back in on you, right? That's what you want to be. You want them to stop their own turn. That's really strong defense right there. You never want to be doing the same thing all the time. Never want to be doing the same thing all the time, because eventually you're just going to get called out for it. So make sure you know what all of your options are and are ready to respond to the correct situation with whatever response Katalina has. I promise you, she has an answer. She always has an answer. It's just which one you pick at the correct time, understanding your situation, right? And eventually, once you get a good enough game sense for understanding defense, understanding getting out of the corner, it's really, with her toolkit, it's going to feel like a breeze to push opponents back. So yeah, defense with this character, it's pretty simple, but it's a really important part of the game, because you don't want to get stuck in the corner, and these are just some ways of finding your way out of it. So that is the me rambling portion of the Katalina guide. Before I get into the final segment, which is the most important confirms and combos that this character has, there's just some closing things I think are the most important things about learning this character and understanding this character and stuff. So really, the most important thing that I can tell you when it comes to getting better at this game, when it comes to rising the rank, when it comes to fully figuring out who you want to play, how you want to play Katalina, how you want to express yourself with this character, and how you want to approach this game in the first place, is just to keep playing. Ranked, I know people care so much about their rank, people care so much about how people view them, how they play, how they're performing, but truly the best thing that you can do for yourself as a fighting game player is to keep playing the game, right? You're never gonna be able to watch top level Catalinas or play against top level Catalinas and be able to play at their caliber, while thinking, oh man, I wish I could do what they're doing, but I can't play the game, I won't play the game, I'm not going to put in the effort, I'm not going to figure out how this character works. It's never going to happen. Like, you have to play this game if you really want to achieve what you want with this character. So that's truly the people that this guide is for. So I would just say, don't give up, right? People will call this game easy, but really there's a lot of nuance that goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot of decision making and complexity. I mean, I spent so long just talking about the neutral game. There is so much that can happen within just the first few frames of a round that can dictate the entirety of the rest of the game, right? There's so much going on. But really, I would say don't super overcomplicate it, right? In terms of what you can take away from this guide, I would say really focus on the things that you feel like you're lacking, the things that you're struggling with, and kind of put those to the test, right? And one by one, slowly piece the character together. If you feel like you're just getting stuck in the corner all the time, focus on figuring out how to inch forward, how to use your best tools to mash out, how to use Brave Counter to put them away, where you should be using LIGHTWALL to try and escape some matchups, right? Like, that's what you want to focus on. If you need to focus on pressure, you should go into the lab and take my advice for structuring your pressure and figure out your own ways of piecing the pieces together, and finding unique and creative ways to try and throw or throw off your opponent, right? Because that's what's going to make you a good player. It's figuring out what you're doing wrong and taking outside information or taking your own insights and taking the advice from other people and just becoming a more knowledgeable, more experienced, and better player at the game. So you might not take away from this video everything that I know about the character, because there are definitely things that are just muscle memory to me from experience that I can't accurately portray, because I can't go through every single situation that this character has. But eventually, if you keep playing, you are going to fully master this character and fully realize the best answer for every single situation, because I sure don't have that, and I don't think that anybody truly does, but you can get as close to perfect as you can get only if you keep playing and thinking about this character. That's another thing. You need to think, right? A lot of people will just throw their buttons around and won't care about what they're doing, but understanding the way that you're structuring your pressure, understanding the options that you're choosing, the reasons why, and realizing why you're getting hit or why your opponent is choosing the certain thing they are, is really key to, in the future, making better and more correct decisions, right? And building that muscle memory of what you're supposed to do. So definitely pay attention to how you play, and pay attention to basically everything that you can. But again, I don't want this to be too overwhelming, right? In reality, this is still kind of a more basic guide of just going over what the character can do and the beginnings of piecing the character together. So yeah, I would just focus on what you're struggling with and just kind of taking it from there. Now, another thing, I would just say, be okay with the pace that you have to play this character at. They're meant to be played a little slower, right? That means that you can play them aggressively, but you're never going to be able to play them as aggressively as you can some other characters in this game, and that's okay. I mean, if you want somebody that's going to force open their opponent, then this character might not be for you, and that's fine. But you got to be okay with calming down just a little bit and really thinking about what you're doing and really taking this character at a pace that is the most efficient, right? Because that's what's going to make you an even better player, is really playing the game and forcing your opponent to play the game at your pace, which is Catalina's best pace, right? So understanding and learning and just kind of feeling out the way the character plays is going to be super helpful to just forcing your game plan on the rest of the cast and really shutting and oppressing your opponent down, right? Which is what's going to make you so strong. So be okay with just taking some time and really learning the character and really learning how she plays and just slowing down a little bit if you're coming from a more faster paced game or coming from a more fast paced character, right? So now I'm going to go into the combos. This is going to be combos that go over everything from her 2-hit confirms to her full cash outs, right? So enjoy.